Hello and welcome to another episode of Superpowers, the show that invites you to experience the extraordinary. And I'm your host, Carl Fink, and I'm excited today to have with me Cynthia Branchflower. And Cynthia is somebody who's gifted with the superpower of healing. And this is something that she discovered earlier in her life and has been expressing more and more as she moves down the rails. And part of what Cynthia did that was big was, learning to listen to her guidance. And her guidance was telling her to do things that, for her were a little bit kind of crazy at the time. And I love her stories about that and how she got to where she is. So we will talk about those things. And she also does a lot of work with energy clearing. So we'll get into all that, and I will love to just jump right in and say hello to Cynthia. So, hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming today and doing this with us.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd love to just get you just introduce you to our audience a little bit so they can know a little bit more about you and who you are. And in reading your book, one of the things that I enjoyed reading a lot was just how you ended up in California and that process. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. And the reason for it is that I think right now people out in our audience, they have stuff coming up and they're feeling things and they may not know what it is, and guidance is coming and they may not necessarily know how to identify the guidance and not. And you made a big decision to move from Atlanta to California based solely on guidance. And just what did that feel like, and what was that process like, in case anybody out in our audience is going through that?
Okay. It's actually happened twice to me where I moved based on the guidance I was given.
Right.
When I moved to Atlanta, I had been living in Maryland, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I knew I was going to move to Atlanta and I was going to go to work for a dating service, and I knew the day that I was supposed to leave. Wow.
Okay, so I want to just talk about that for. So how did you know? What told you that?
It was a message. I mean, you wake up in the middle of the night and you know something inside. You know that you're going.
Right.
And I couldn't imagine not following that.
Mm-hmm.
In Atlanta, it was a little bit different because, and I did go to work for a dating service when I went down to Atlanta.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
And I looked through the ads, and they weren't really hiring salespeople because I was in sales for 20 years.
Right.
But I walked into the place that was closest to where I was staying, and after talking to them, they hired me, even though they didn't have an opening.
Yeah.
And I stayed there for several years, and then I had the feeling that I was supposed to leave, that I wasn't supposed to be doing that anymore.
Right.
But I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And because it was selling dating service, it was video dating.
Right.
And I was basically a closer.
Mm-hmm.
So they would solicit people, and they would come in and they would start talking. And two different people came in, a man and a woman, at different times. And the woman started, was looking at me, and my energy kicked in. So I knew that she was intuitive when she sat down.
Right.
But I didn't do that kind of thing back then.
Yeah.
I just knew that she was intuitive.
Yeah.
So she was talking. She said, I don't know. I couldn't figure out why I was here, but you're not supposed to be here anymore. And I said, I know I'm not supposed to be here anymore, but I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Right. And she said, I don't know. I just know I was supposed to give you the message. You're not supposed to be here anymore. And I was like, okay, well, I'm still getting a paycheck, and I'm going to stay here until I figure out what else I'm going to do.
Right, right.
So a week later, there was a man that came in who had a store, some kind of a store in Atlanta. And he basically did the same thing. He said, I don't have any trouble getting dates. I don't know why I'm here. And then, actually, I do know why I'm here. You're not supposed to be here anymore. And I went, Somebody else already told me that, and I get it, but what am I supposed to do?
Right.
And he said, I don't know, but you're not supposed to be here. And I was like, oh my God. So another week or two went by, and my paycheck, I got a notice from the bank that there weren't enough funds in the owner's account to cover the paycheck.
Ah.
Well, then
Then
I
you got-
started looking for other work that
Right.
that would work out for me. So then I became an insurance agent for about 6 years. But the message comes through. You know the message is coming. Other people hear the message.
Right.
And you still need more information sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came to California, I had gone to see my mom was an astrologer, and she said, you should look into astrocartography. They can tell you, where the energy's best for you. Because I knew inside I wasn't supposed to be in Atlanta anymore, but
Right.
I wasn't sure where I was supposed to go. So I was waiting for a message. So she said, go to the astrocartographer. So I looked one up, and I went to see her, and she said, anywhere in California or Sedona, Arizona would be good for you. And I thought, okay. And then I started thinking about it. I had 2 kids,
Right.
and I really thought hard about it, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so I made that decision. It was Christmas time. We were visiting my family up north,
Right.
and that night I went to bed, and I had a dream, and I was told in the dream it took place in a church, and there was an altar, and the person on the altar said, God wants you to move to California. Anywhere in this area is good. And they circled the map, and it had streaks of color on it. And it was basically the Bay Area, not Sacramento, but it was out to the coast, and it was just above San Francisco, down below San Francisco, in that wide area. And that was where they said, anywhere in this area is good.
Right.
And that was it. I was moving.
Yeah. At that point.
Yeah,
now
that
you're-
was that was the strong message.
I think that, well, okay, so in your particular situation, those were really clear messages.
But see, in the beginning, they're not.
Well, yeah, I
Just
know.
a little
Yeah, they're little
push.
nudges at your intuition, and if you're not paying attention, they kind of get louder and louder, and then if you ignore them, they get louder and louder.
Exactly.
Yeah. For some people, well, and I guess that's what it is. Maybe their early stages with their messages, they maybe don't listen to them. Maybe don't.
In the
don't hear them.
beginning, when you're being guided, it's always positive.
Right. Okay.
It's go this way,
Yeah.
go there, leave this place.
Yeah.
But it's not. Don't do that. Be afraid.
No.
It's never a negative. It's always a positive.
Right.
And if you follow the guidance, years ago I'd walk into a place and I could feel the heaviness of the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get a bad feeling about somebody, just an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
Well, if you overlook it, that's not good for you to
Right.
overlook it, because you're getting a warning,
Yeah.
basically.
Right.
And the more often you follow the guidance you're given, the more guidance you're given.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if you redirect your thoughts, which is one of the things I found out as I was selling all my stuff and planning to move to California, was that every positive thought, every negative thought takes 11 positive thoughts to cancel it out.
Mm.
Because that's what I would hear.
Right.
I would
Right.
I would think, oh my God, I'm going to be a homeless person with a car key and 2 kids and a dog. And then I would hear, everything's okay, everything's taken care of, you needn't worry. These are, and I would count.
Right.
There'd be 11 positive thoughts that would follow every one negative.
Yeah.
So it's almost through trial and error. I just can't imagine being guided to do something and then not doing it. My
Right.
father was very upset with me when I said I was moving to California.
Right. Right. Well,
So,
there are those times that the guidance may seem a little bit weird, or it doesn't really conform to what somebody might think of as a rational or a reasonable thing to do. I have a friend who tells a story about a friend of hers that wanted to sell her house, and it was kind of a fixer-upper, and the market was really bad. It just, there are a lot of rational reasons not to do that, but she really wanted to do it. That was what her heart was telling her, and she got guidance to go to a place at night during the middle of the week that had chicken wings, and she didn't particularly like spicy food, and she doesn't really go out at night either, but she went ahead and went, and when she got there, the place was really crowded, and she's going, well, this is great. There's one table, and it was like a table where 4 people could sit, and she finally sat down there, and as she was sitting, she noticed a woman come in with her daughter, and there was nowhere for them to sit, so she offered them to sit with her. So, the woman comes and sits down, and then as they get to talking, she says, so tell me about you. And the woman says, well, we just moved here and love to buy a house. I'm actually looking for a fixer-upper.
Oh, yeah.
And, so it all came together, but in
And she had to cooperate to let that come together.
Exactly, yeah. She had to go and, and have that happen. She met somebody. The woman ended up buying the house from her, So it doesn't, that's one of the things, though, and I think a lot of times it's really easy for us to dismiss guidance when it comes, because it doesn't make sense to us. And so that's where the whole trust factor comes in, and trusting that guidance is, meant to move you.
And sometimes when things don't go exactly right, you can't lose faith at that point.
Right.
It might look like it's not going right, but it still is. It just hasn't completely worked out all the kinks on the other side.
Right. Yeah.
So I've had times before I left, even when I was in Atlanta or after I was in California, if there's somebody around you who's very negative and is doubting everything that you do and say, you just have to separate yourself from them.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're pulling you down and they're sending all that negative energy to you.
Right.
So then it's harder to hear what you're supposed to be doing if they're, sort of weighing you down with all their negative stuff.
Right. So now you actually have superpowers that express themselves in you in a lot of different ways, and you're able to use it, intuitively and psychically with people. You read energy.
But I don't do readings.
You don't do readings, okay.
I just...
but you also work as a healer,
yes, too. I'm a medium, and I do channel energy, and I pray for people, and I hear spirits talking.
Right.
Things like that. I receive information about people.
Right.
And I work in person, and I also do distant work.
Yeah. So when did you start noticing that? I know a lot of people who is this something you were born with? Is it something that developed over time, or?
I think you're probably born with it, but I knew that I had energy coming out of my hands, and I remember when I was when I was a teenager. My mom went to Mexico, and she brought back a aquamarine crystal, and she said, "Oh, see this crystal?" And she put it in my hand.
Yeah.
And I felt this shot of energy go up my arm and all the way up, and I gave it back to her. I thought she was playing a trick on me, and she was kind of sad because she said, "Oh, I guess it's yours. If you feel it that strongly, it's for you."
Oh.
So there were times when I could feel energy, and I would receive information.
Right.
But I always thought that if you were a healer, you knew it from the time you were really small, and that's what you did all your life.
Right.
So when I was 40, I went to Brazil, and I saw, I took my mom to Brazil to see John of God. And when I passed in front of him, he asked me what I did for a living. And then I told him I was in sales at a university. And then he told me to sit in his current. So I didn't understand exactly what was going on.
Right.
Then the next time I went through before I left, he said he had me assist in a surgery. It was really shocking to me.
Really? Wow.
And I was shaking because I thought, and then I kept thinking, oh, God never puts you in a situation you can't handle. You can handle this.
Right.
So I was holding the tray of instruments, and they were jingling because I was shaking so much.
Wow.
And when I was finished, he took the tray of instruments and put them aside. And he said, "You're in Portuguese through the interpreter." He said, "You're a tremendously powerful medium and healer, and that's what you're supposed to be doing."
Wow.
And so I didn't know what to do because I was in sales and I had kids and I had
Right.
to make a living, and he works for free.
Right. Yeah.
So I said, I can't work for free. I can't do that. He said, no, no, no. You know, they checked with him. He said, no, you charge for your time.
Mm-hmm.
You can charge people for your time. I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
And then the adjustment was going from believing in healers and understanding that there are healers
Right.
to being a healer. That was kind of hard.
Yeah.
That was kind of hard.
Was that so? Let's just start with John of God for a second. Was that a kind of a quantum leap for you to feel like that what he was doing was, that he was a healer and that he was?
I had been around Filipino psychic surgeons before.
Okay. All right.
My mom used to have people like that come.
Right.
So I was familiar with healers. It wasn't
Okay.
that much of a stretch for me.
Right.
But, and at one time, my family was away, and I had developed a frog in my throat, and it was getting worse and worse. And I always felt like I had to clear my throat. So I went to the doctor, and he checked it, and he said that I had a polyp in my throat that was going to have to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty upset about it. I went back home, and I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I thought, you know, if the healers were here, they could just heal that, and I wouldn't have to think about surgery and my vocal cords. And
Right.
then I thought, but healers don't heal. God heals through healers. And if God can heal through them, he can heal through me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thanked God for healing me. And I coughed, and out came this piece of meat about that big.
Wow.
And it was, and I could feel the blood running down the back of my throat. So it was
Wow.
instant. It
Right.
never came back or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was the realization that it's, when people heal, it's between them and God.
Mm-hmm.
So I can work on a number of different people for the same thing.
Right.
And some will have different degrees of healing, and sometimes healing doesn't involve recovery.
Right.
So you can't guarantee what's going to go on from one person to the next.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
You just don't know.
That's true. And I think a lot of times some of that is a coordination between maybe what you want and where you are, and also your soul journey. Because I have noticed in work that I've done with various different healers that I can't find a consistency in terms of, somebody who maybe believes in it, in that process, they might benefit. But I've seen skeptics come in and benefit. And then
Right.
I've seen the reverse too, that people who fully believed and nothing happened, or,
Right.
And skeptics that didn't believe anything and nothing happened. And I'm just, what is the pattern there? And why does it work that way? And I sort of feel like that it just must be an individual soul journey. And if that's something that you want to experience in this lifetime, then...
Well, I always tell people, if I work on them or if I see them 3 times, and I don't say everybody needs to be seen 3 times,
Right.
but if they see me 3 times and they have no effect, move on, find something else.
Right, yeah.
Because it's not going to happen.
Right.
Generally speaking, they feel something the first time.
Yeah.
And if not the first time, then the second, which I rarely go to 3 times. I wouldn't, because I'd feel it's not a benefit. If it's not going to be a benefit, it's not going to be a benefit in the beginning.
Right, yeah, yeah. So you must be, just personality-wise, I'm sort of, I'm musing over the clarity and the accuracy of the guidance that you've gotten, and also, people walking in and telling you very specifically, you're not supposed to be here anymore.
It was pretty funny.
But then also, actually going to John of God and having him, say, assist me, and then him telling you you're a powerful healer. It's sort of like as though the guidance was meant to overcome a very critical thinking skeptic or something. Do you find that that you're like that you like a lot of evidence or something to really to really believe something?
Well, it's like when I turned 50, I felt the need to go horseback riding, and I thought, oh my God, what is that? And I thought, well, it'll pass.
Yeah.
Well, I waited 6 months and it didn't pass.
Uh-huh.
So I thought, I haven't ridden since I was a teenager. I'm going to have to take lessons, you know, and all this, and now I have a horse.
Right.
And I have a really strong connection with that horse.
Yeah.
But it never would have occurred to me to go, you know, looking and horseback riding. So I waited on that one.
Yeah.
But like the book, I was told to write the book.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's bring that up right now. This is Cynthia's book, and it's called A Guide to Energy Clearing. And it's a great little book, and there's a lot of really good just tips for people on how they can clear their own energy, and also a lot of discussion about how important that is. And I think that's probably one of those things that people don't spend a lot of time thinking about, because, you know, energetic clearing, if we can't see it, if we can't feel it, you know, we don't know it's there, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, until if you clear regularly, then you notice the difference between when you're clear and when you're not.
Right.
And if you walk into a place, you can feel the heaviness of whatever's going on there.
You have a great story in there about the cancer patient who had been recovering and doing well, and then suddenly he started not doing so well again.
Oh, and he was in the hospital.
He was in the hospital, and you asked, I guess you tuned into him.
Yeah, I tuned in to, she said, he's going downhill again, and I tuned in and I could see this black box above,
right,
showering darkness. And
yeah.
I said, is he watching TV?
Yeah. So let that be a lesson to you out there.
He was watching the news. It was right before I think we were invading Iraq.
Oh, and he was just watching all that coverage.
He was watching all that news.
Wow, yeah.
It was very disturbing.
And there's another thing too. I had heard, you probably know about this, that when we watch something like, you know, a horror movie or something that scares us, that it can literally depress our immune system for as long as 30 days. And that's just the reaction to it. That isn't necessarily like, even, you know, you talk about areas that you've gone. There was that story in there about going to a beach because you had wanted to go there to clear it. And you just couldn't, because it just felt so dark and heavy on that beach. So, you know, there's... I think there's our response to scary things, but then there's also just places that in and of themselves are energetically dark.
Yeah. If you go into a place where there was a murder or something, that energy's going to be there.
Right. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about you know, some of what people can do to clear. But then I also want to get into, you know, how you work with people and how you're, you know, applying this gift that you have. But so let's just talk a little bit about some basic, because you've got some good ideas in the book, just some basic clearing ideas that people
well, I say if you work, see what happens is I have a client who's a therapist. Well, I have several clients that are therapists, but I'd seen him a number of times and never picked up any strange energies. And then one day I was working on him, and I started hearing this really aggressive language, angry and very dark. And I thought, I've never heard that working on him before.
Right.
And then I realized, as I was almost finished, I had a vision of a dark-haired man with curly hair and all this. And then I realized he shook hands with this man.
Uh-huh.
And he picked up his energy.
Right.
And he hadn't cleared it.
Right.
So I cleared it.
Yeah.
But I told him about it. And I told him from then on, if he came in contact with somebody with that type of really dark, heavy energy, to wash, put water on your arms and then sprinkle salt and then use it almost like a scrub, but not crazy. Don't make your arms turn red or anything.
Yeah, right.
And then just rinse it to clear that energy so that he doesn't carry it with him.
Yeah.
Because you carry it with you. And I worked on a group of people in Middletown once, and the massage therapist, I worked on the massage therapist, and he, before I got there earlier in the day, he had worked on one of the clients that was there. And when I started working on him, I started picking up information about her. So he wasn't cleared, but he's carrying her energy. There's nothing negative about her.
Yeah.
But the people don't seem to realize that if you don't intentionally change it. So you're carrying other people's energy, and then if you get sick, your body, your energy has to get through all of that. It's all over you.
Right, yeah.
So if it's something serious, you're not as able to fight it off because you're covered up with everybody else's stuff.
Yeah.
So I clear a lot.
Yeah.
So I work on a lot of people.
Right.
And even at a distance, I can still pick up their energy. So then I still have to go. And I go to the ocean to clear.
Right.
Or to a place of worship that has a high vibration.
Right.
And then I just sit down. I don't get in the water. I just sit down and I close my eyes. And if I'm in a kind of an odd place, sometimes I'm told to keep my eyes open. But I'll just focus my attention on my crown chakra and then my third eye and throat, and I work my way down. And then when I'm finished, I'm told that I'm clear. And if I have my eyes closed, I usually see sort of a greenish purple color. And I'm clear.
Right.
If somebody's watching me, I can't clear. I see black. And then I know that somebody's watching me.
Right.
And I start looking around to find, or I'll close my eyes and concentrate for my space to become very large, and then they move away and get away from me.
Would you say that there's value to like a daily practice of clearing, and is
if
there
a person is exposed on a regular basis, I worked on someone who worked in her profession was a counselor at the men's detention center, and she was psychically very sensitive. So she was starting to get sick, starting to lose time from work. Her weight was increasing as she was trying to insulate herself.
Right.
And she needed to clear daily, and she did. She started clearing, and I think that's in the book too.
Mm-hmm.
She had to go. She found a way that at lunchtime she could go to the hospital across the street and sit down and clear every day at lunch, and it only takes 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
And everything shifted.
Mm-hmm.
She stopped being sick and started getting healthier, and
Yeah.
and it all worked out. But if the people don't allow themselves to get clear, if they think, and it's unfortunate because there's a lot of people that think if they're doing healing work or they're channeling energy,
Mm-hmm.
that automatically they're protected
Right.
and they're cleared by the same
Right.
powerful energy that comes
Mhm.
through. But it's not the case. And I've seen it so many times.
Right.
And if they don't, I don't know why they weren't told. That's what's
Yeah.
confusing to me, is why didn't
Right.
the spirits that do the healing through them
Mm-hmm.
tell them that they needed to clear? Why weren't they guided that way? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Right.
So tell me a little bit, let's just for the benefit of our audience and folks out there, a little about how you work and what somebody might, get in contact with you for, to, what they may want to be overcoming.
Well, when I see people in person, and I also do distant work, and I also see people individually and in groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them if you can pray for it, I can pray for it.
Right.
So whether it's getting along better with in-laws or other people, or clearing whatever's necessary to have a job come through,
Mm-hmm.
or it's a health issue.
Right.
And sometimes I receive information about the person, some change that they should make or could make that would help their situation.
Right.
Sometimes I've worked on a number of people for pregnancy. They wanted to get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And that has a tendency to work pretty well.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I get information on when they can expect pregnancy.
Right. Yeah. What sorts of things have you found, just anecdotally, that that might block a pregnancy? For example, is it like a clearing issue?
I don't know. It might be a timing issue. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's a timing issue.
Yeah.
And if they're, if you focus on the negative, that's what grows. So if you're focusing on the fears, then you get more and more to be afraid of.
Right.
If you're focusing on the positive, but it's not the right time,
Mm-hmm.
then being impatient.
Yeah.
If there's, a lot of times I'm guided to tell people to use Bach flower remedies,
Mm-hmm.
BACH,
Right.
Bach flower remedies. And they've been out for about 80 years.
Right. Yeah.
And because they heal emotionally and spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
it can do a lot
Right. Yeah.
for the people. A lot of times they're impatient and they think that, if they take it a couple of times, it should work. But it usually
Yeah.
takes about 6 weeks of taking it every day.
Right. Well, we're all impatient. We just want it to work right now.
Yeah. When I first started working on people, I used to hear, be patient, be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted them to heal quickly.
Right. Yeah.
And I had a client once that came to a group, and she said that she wanted to get rid of all of her beliefs that did not serve her, remove all of her blocks and all this. And I thought, oh wow, that's a lot.
That's ambitious.
And I said, I'm guided to give you a warning that this could be a very painful process for you. She said, I don't care. I just want to move through it.
Right.
And I said, okay. And I prayed for it. And she came back. I saw her about a month or two later, and she said, you weren't kidding. Everything in my life fell apart.
Ah.
Everything. She said, I felt like I was hit by a truck.
Right.
Everything fell apart. But now, and she was an artist,
Mm-hmm.
she said, and now I've started creating these, and she would draw on these plates, and they were, she would use some kind of a colored pencil that was, and then she'd put a coating on it, but they were beautiful, and they were tropical, like, something you might see in Brazil.
Right.
So it was
Yeah.
pretty wild, because that was at the time when I was going to Brazil
Yeah.
all the time. All of a sudden she started receiving all these
Mm-hmm.
pictures, and everything straightened out. Her
Yeah.
life went in kind of a different
Right.
direction.
Right.
But you tear it down to build it up again.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
I don't know. I always warn people when they want
Mhm.
to do that.
Yeah, if we can do a remodel, sure, but this one's a tear down. So we're going down to slab and
Can
starting
be really
over.
painful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. That's why sometimes more of a process, And,
Yeah. Generally, I pray for people to. I give them the warning, and they'll say, "No, I don't want that."
Right.
And then I say, "Okay, I'm going to pray for you to have an easy process that you can handle. That's the
Right.
best way."
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to find you and they
I have a
wanna-
website,
Okay, and your website is
branchflower.us.
branchflower.us. Okay. And now can they also find your book there? on
Yes,
Branch-
it's on Amazon.
Oh, it's on Amazon too.
But I do have a page.
Okay. All right. So
And it's on Kindle also.
oh, it is. Oh, great. Okay. So you can find this on Amazon.com. You can find this on Kindle, and you can find it on branchflower.us.
.us.
And if somebody wanted to work with you, how does that work? Do they go to your website and send you an email?
Exactly.
Or, yeah,
They can send me an email or call and leave a message.
Okay.
The phone number on my website is always answered by the machine because people from other countries sometimes call in the middle of the night.
Right.
It's never hooked up.
Okay.
It never rings out loud. You
Yeah.
always have to leave a message.
Right. Okay.
So, and I just call people back from my cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then when they call and talk to you, is there any sort of process or anything like that? Or you?
Well, if they want distant healing, then they need to send me their picture.
Right.
And fill out a distant healing request, and they have to be laying down or reclining with their eyes closed for 20 minutes. And so then I send energy, and they need to not have any acupuncture, chiropractic, or massage. And then for 4 days.
Right.
And then no alcohol or pork for 7 days.
Right.
And I know it doesn't always go over well being in California, but they should not smoke marijuana because it damages the etheric body.
That's something, too, that probably should, marijuana, the push is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I know that people are thinking that this is great and this is progressive and this is really cool, but on the physical plane we tend not to pay attention to what the ripple effect is, in the energetic bodies. Pork is interesting. What is it about pork? I mean,
it has a low vibration, and when you eat your food, you should give thanks for it or bless it. And when you bless your food, if you ask that it become whatever you need, it raises the vibration before you eat it, and then you eat it.
Yes.
With pork, you can pray over it, and you won't change the vibration. You'll never change the vibration of pork. It has a low vibration.
Yeah.
It's not an insult to the animal. They're intelligent, but they have a low vibration. So when you eat it, it lowers your vibration.
Right.
And takes you out of the healing energy. So I tell people, if you accidentally eat pork, I can pray for you and send energy to bring your energy back up again. But I don't believe that people accidentally drink alcohol, so I won't pray for them.
Right.
If they drink alcohol after they see me.
Yeah.
That's their thing.
They made that choice. Yeah. That's disregarding guidance. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for coming and just sharing about you and sharing a little about what you do. And I would love for more people to be able to come and find you and, get a little bit of relief from whatever obstacles that they may be facing at some point. So good to get a chance to just chat with you and get awareness about you out there and growing.
Thank you, Carl. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So. And that is Cynthia Branchflower. And she's a wonderful healer, and she is great at clearing energy. So if you would like to work with Cynthia or like to get in touch with her, as she said, you can go to her website, which is branchflower.us. And you can also find her book there, which is called Energy Clearing. And you can also find her book on Amazon.com. And it's a great little book. There's some really good tips in it for simple ways, practical ways that you can clear energy, and is part of a really good maintenance program and something that should get a little bit of focus. So thank you again for joining us for another episode of Superpowers, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. And remember to go out there and experience the extraordinary.